Good morning, everybody. I'm sitting here looking at the webinar numbers coming in, and I am kind of astounded at how many of you guys want to take a look at the deep, dark, crazy recesses of my OCD crazy mind. So really appreciate you guys coming in. I am Kendyl Young. I'm the owner and founder of DIGGS. We are a residential real estate company in Glendale, California, which is part of the greater Los Angeles area. And I'm also a member of the Realvolve team, self-designated director of excitement, because, I'm generally pretty doggone excited, especially about all of the wonderful, awesome things that Mark Stepp makes for me so that I can inhabit my craziness to the fullest. So today we are going to be going over three of the more complex workflows that are included in the DIGGS suite of workflows. If anyone is curious what the heck that is, the DIGGS suite is, I believe there's 12, 13, 14, I don't know, there's a bunch of them. A bunch of workflows that I wrote for my own business, to run my own business, so that everything is as automated, as watertight, and requiring as little bandwidth as I could possibly get away with, so that my bandwidth was available for stuff that a computer can't do. Holding my client's hand, assuring them everything is okay, or if it's not okay, is as okay as it can be. Thinking about ways to grow my repeat and referral business, and generally just being an authentic and present human being. And it's really hard to be present if you're freaked out about whether or not the appraisal came in on time, right? So the workflows that I wrote are really, really geared towards allowing me and my staff to have the bandwidth to do stuff computers can't. And so Realvolve is what takes care of all of the stuff that computers should. Now, a lot of really awesome real estate agents, and I'm just going to assume that everybody on this webinar is an awesome real estate agent. A lot of awesome real estate agents have checklists that they've written down on a piece of paper, right? And your checklist says, for your listing marketing, your checklist says, sign listing documents, put sign up, put it in the multiple list, put the lockbox on, schedule open house, receive offers. Okay, it's nice linear checklist. It goes from A through C and beyond in a nice, linear manner. And that's awesome, but there's a bunch of problems with 2D work, checklists. One, the piece of paper can get lost. Number two, if somebody has got the piece of paper, it means somebody else doesn't have the piece of paper. And so the person who doesn't have the piece of paper doesn't know what got checked off or what's coming up next on the piece of paper, right? I got a team, there's 8 admin staff, and they were using paper checklists, and nobody knew what anybody else was doing, and so lots of stuff got duplicated, but scarier, lots of stuff fell through the cracks because somebody thought somebody else was taking care of it. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk pretty fast, so if you didn't get it, it's okay. This is being recorded, and you'll be able to play it back at, half speed so that you can get what's going on. So let's dive right on in. This is the first workflow that we're going to go through, and that's listing marketing. And for many of you, you were like me, not now, but maybe a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, where taking a listing was something that happened once in a while sort of a thing, not nearly as often as I would like it to, maybe once a month, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, the time between taking listings was long enough that I had to think really hard all the things that needed to get done for listing. And so I was so excited to get a listing, and it was so important, and I knew that this was going to grow my business. And so I'd be running around completely freaked out in a state of serious drama, trying to make sure that I did a really, really good job and that I did everything possible to launch this listing in the best way possible, because we all know that first impression, we never get it back. So it's got to be launched correctly. So listing marketing, that's what it is. This is a description. Groups. Groups is something that many people have asked about. What is its purpose? What does it do? So when we take listings, and I'm sure many of you take listings in different municipalities or different cities, and those different cities cities might have different governmental regulations or requirements. So for me, as an example, City of Pasadena requires a city occupancy inspection before you can actually close escrow on a listing. So I always like to get that done right when I take the listing, and it's part of my marketing. And so we want to make sure that's part of the checklist. But if I take a listing in the city of Glendale, I don't want to gum up my to-do lists with stuff that relates to Pasadena, not Glendale. So that's what groups are. We create the group, City of Pasadena, and then when we create an activity, we can choose what group it is a member of. If it's not a member of anything in particular, then it's the general. You can see there's no X box there. Everything is general automatically. But if I make the activity, make sure that you get the city occupancy inspection scheduled, that's one of the things that's on the list, then I would mark that activity City of Pasadena. That would be the part of the group. And that way, if I take a listing in Glendale, I just don't enact this particular group. Okay, so that's what groups are for, and these are the groups that are for me, and I left them in there for everybody who buys the workflows because I wanted to show you an example of what you can do. All right, so referral non-agent and referrals is another really important set of groups. So let's take a look at some of the activities. I just want to show you some of the things that are going on. So whenever we take a listing, there's a bunch of things that need to get ordered for my file. Okay, and I'm one of those think ahead. If I can do it now versus 2 weeks from now, I'm going to do it now, right? So, for example, ordering the HOA documents. Maybe some of you don't do that. HOA, that's when you get a condo or a townhouse. Some of you may not do that until you actually get into escrow. I find that HOAs are just, they're basket cases. Man, if I wait until I actually get into escrow, I might not get those HOA docs until I'm ready to close escrow. I mean, they're just crazy pants people. So I order them the minute I take my listing, right? So we do that right away. Other things that we want to order right away, like order the seller net sheet. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff like order the home warranty, order the net sheet, order the 3Ps. What are the 3Ps? Their preliminary title report, the property profile, and the permits. That's what the 3Ps are, in case anybody's wanting to know. These are standard things that we order on every stupid listing that we take. Okay, not stupid, they're awesome, but every listing we take. And it's a phone call typically to your rep, right? I mean, order the home warranty. We always put a home warranty on our listings the minute we take a listing. You know what a seller's home warranty is. So, you know, it's, what is it? Is it a 2-minute, 3-minute phone call to your home warranty rep? Hey, Vivian, got a new listing. Want to order a seller's thing? Yeah, here's the address. Yeah, here's the escrow, the bill it to, blah, 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 blah. It's a 3-minute phone call, you think, but then, you know, then Vivian says, so how are your kids doing? How's the job going for your daughter? Before you know it, you've chewed up, 5-10 minutes, whatever. This is something we do on all of these standard procedures. We have, we have these emails that go out that are super cool. So, pick the interested party. So my home warranty gal, her name is Vivian Galomboski. Okay, so a specific contact, Vivian Galomboski. I'm very, very consistent. I use the same darn people every time. And then here's the letter that's attached to this particular activity, LM007. And everybody wants to know, what do your codes mean? They don't mean doodly squat other than attaching it to a particular workflow. So in this particular case, it's attached to the listing marketing workflow. That's what LM means. 007 just means it's the 7th letter that I wrote. No, it's not the 7th letter in the series. It's just the 7th one that I wrote. So let's type in here LM so we can get a list of all, and that's why I do it, so that they're all nice and grouped together. See, all the LMs are grouped together. And take a look at LM007. This one says, Dear Vivian, because I know it's going to Vivian, we have a new listing, order the home warranty, here's the address, here is the name, first and last name, and then first and last name of the seller number 2. Escrow is going to be with Kristen Hartwick, because I always use the same escrow people. Please hit reply to confirm the order is done. Okay, that email goes out. It's already written. It has the merge field, so my people don't need to touch it. They don't need to do anything with it. They just hit the send button, and that goes out, and the whole process takes, like, I don't know, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. It doesn't take very long. Okay, so let's just say it's 30 seconds. 30 seconds versus 3 minutes times how many, I think I have, what, 5 of these things in here, 5 or 6 of them, and these people are all friends because they do a lot of business with us. They come to our company functions, they participate in stuff. So these are all personal friends of ours. So that 3-minute phone call that goes into the 7-10 minute range, and there's 5 of them, so now we're talking an hour. Shoot, man, we just did like 5 different things in the space of like 5 minutes, let's say, as opposed to an hour of chitty chatty and whatnot. And it's all done, it's all automated, it's super cool, and it's an iron trap. Man, the 5 things get ordered every single time because the checklist, my people have to check it off. My marketing assistant or my listing coordinator has to check it off. Okay, so that's really important. It goes out there. Let's see what's out. What else is out there? Sending a thank you to the seller. I mean, we all know that we should send a thank you letter to the seller when they do business with us, right? We know that. But how many times do you get like super busy? I know there's some people on here who take a lot of listings. You know, maybe you got so busy you forgot to write the thank you note or whatever. What if it was an automated email and it had to go out? What if, even better, you weren't the one who was sending it out? This was a letter that you wrote, right? You wrote it. Here's LM01. You wrote it. It's personalized, but you weren't the one that was sending it, right? And tells them what to expect and what's going on. And we use merge fields so that it feels like it was written for them, not some unpersonalized, irrelevant, you know what I mean, letter that doesn't work. Okay, so that's another example that's in here. Let's see, ordering in the net sheet, 3Ps, NHD, these are all things, sending the net sheet. Okay, here's another thing that I think is really cool that are in all of my workflows that are transactional. I think that it's important to be ahead of your client's emotions. Now, if any of you don't know that your clients are in a very emotional state, you're either selling commercial property or you haven't sold very many houses, right? I mean, a large part of our value to our clients is to manage their expectations and manage their emotions so they don't go ape shit crazy on us and do things that are not in their best interest, right? So I know, because I've sold, I don't know what, 1,200 homes. I've sold a lot of houses over the years. I know how my clients are feeling, and I know what is likely happening every week. So let's take a look at these client care letters. I typically have them scheduled so they go once a week, and in the listing marketing one, they start 3 weeks prior to the start date. Now, you're wondering, how are you going to time that, right? So here's what's really cool about Realvolve as opposed to other programs that might have some kind of templatized checklist. We can calculate things in an amazing number of ways. So in this particular case, I want this letter to go out 3 weeks before we're probably going to launch on the open marketplace. And MLS Target Date is a great way to do that. It's not uncommon for me to sign a listing weeks and weeks and weeks ahead of the time they're actually going to launch. So I can't really say so many days after the start date, because if I take a listing 6 weeks ahead of time and I send a letter that says you've got 3 weeks to go, well, that's pretty confusing, right? So we do this 3 weeks before the MLS target date, and we're always adjusting the target date. If I take a listing 6 weeks prior, we're taking a look at it. By the time we get 3 weeks to launch, we know where we're going to be. If we don't, we're seriously messed up. So it's launch 3 weeks before the MLS target date. It's going to be relevant, it's going to be timely, and it's going to make a lot of sense to the seller. And here's what the letter looks like. So 3 weeks there, LM002, let's take a look at that one. Here we go, 3 weeks before. So it says, dear seller greeting. By the way, when you say seller greeting, and if it's Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Mrs. Smith is the primary, and you have the greeting set to all letters go to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that's exactly what's going to be in this merged field. If you have it, Sally is, Sally and Vanessa, they're a couple, and you've got Vanessa, Sally as the primary, and Vanessa is connected to Sally because they're in a relationship, and you have the greeting set to Sally, dear Sally and Vanessa. That's what's going to fill into this particular merge field, in case you didn't know. We're getting close to your launch date, and it says date in MLS. Okay, that's another merge field that we can use. Next week we're going to take property pictures. Are you ready? My listing coordinator is going to be in touch, and the assistant is going to be there to supervise. The appointment can take a couple of hours. We have to focus on quality. So it tells them what's going to be happening, who's going to be doing it, what they can expect. It's a way of really showing them that we know what we're doing. So let's just go cycle through the rest of these. 2 weeks before, we're saying, yep, your photographer is coming on this date. Your pre-listing inspection is also scheduled in case we do a pre-listing inspection. If we don't, it's not going to actually be there. Draft the out of the copy. We're using our marketing. Here's what our marketing narrative is. Do you see how we use merge fields to make the letters feel very timely, very relevant, very unique, as opposed to a template letter that you might have stored in Microsoft Word that is just a generic letter that you send out every single time, right? Or maybe you send out a generic letter and then you have to edit and copy and paste all of this stuff in there. Merged fields, put it into the right place at the right time, and you never have to do it again, and all of this really useful content can be mushed up into different ways to really help your clients feel secure, feel safe. And every time I send one of these things, I'm putting coins in the trust bank. We'll talk about the trust bank in a minute. Here's the week of. We're in the final stages. This is your target date. When that happens, your home's going to be visible. And then I also warn them, don't talk to me on that day if it doesn't come on Zillow. It's not my fault. I don't control Zillow. Then we talk about open house dates. This is our first big event. So it's just a way. This is going to, your mileage may vary because you're going to have different things that you do in different weeks, different geographies. Don't even do open houses, so you obviously are not going to put that in there. Open houses are a big effing deal out here, but in your neck of the woods, maybe it's something nobody ever does. So don't put in open house. Put something else in. Whatever it is that you know your client can see that week. That's what you want to put into these client care letters. I'm really, really proud of that. I think it's a great way to set yourself up, quite frankly, for repeat and referral business, because you're putting so many deposits in that trust bank that it's just going to pay dividends for years to come. Disclosures and documents. Okay, so we got to go over all of those. That's a meeting because my listing coordinator goes there. By the way, if you have a team and you're worried about your client feeling like you're handing them off, the way we handle that is I sign the listing contract, and then I tell them at the time that I sign the listing contract, okay, now my listing coordinator is going to make a separate appointment with you to go over all the disclosures and the logistics. And the reason I do this is because I want you to meet her, get comfortable working with her, because frankly, she is the one who's going to be so much more useful to you on a daily basis than I am. So that's why we're doing it this way, and it works like a charm. Again, it's just acknowledging that people don't care who does the job; they care that they have confidence and trust in the person that's doing the job. So that's how we set up that trust. Start the MLS entry, keys and lockbox. These are all kind of obvious things that are probably on your paper checklist right now. Assigning the open house to a buyer's agent, sole application. Wherever it is that you tend to amplify things, you want to put it in there. This is a way of using a checklist, by the way. So we put in there, it's like sole application. It's assigned to the marketing assistant, and we put in there whatever it is. We've got our collateral, we've got our pictures and whatnot. We want them to put it into the Facebook, business page, Instagram. You might want to do Pinterest, Twitter, whatever the hell it is that you do. Put it on a checklist so that your marketing assistant knows, okay, I got to do this one, I got to do this one, I got to do this one. Check, 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 and check. Okay, so that's a nice little thing in there. Let's see, live on the MLS. Again, this is something, MLS Target Date, 0 days, we've got it on there. Audit, Realtor.com, Truly, and Zillow. This was something that I didn't do until I had Realvolve as a checklist. And you guys all know, man, these portals get it wrong nearly every time. Somebody's got to go in there and tinker the hell out of these things so that they're actually accurate. It's like, how many times is the bathrooms that are actually in your listing completely different than the number of bathrooms that Zillow's got out there? I mean, it's unbelievable, but whatever. Upload all the pictures, complete the website, property brochure. Let's see, what else is going on here? Send the listing live. That's another point, email. We want them to know what it looks like now, right? So we've got it out there. letter that goes out there, send MLS listing live. I think it's really great that you show them your work product, that you show them that it is in fact on the MLS, and this is what it looks like. So we've got links to that property website. We've got our open house dates, our broker open, second open house if we happen to know it. We've got all of that stuff there for them so they know what to expect and what it looks like. Okay? So really, really big on just making the customers feel fantastic about not only that you're doing a great job, but that you are doing the job. And if you keep doing this in this regular, consistent way, then your client is always going to feel like what's going on. There's one, there's something up here. Oh gosh, I didn't even tell you about one of the things. This is so little. It's so little, but it's so important. I do a weekly phone call, and again, I know a lot of you do a lot more business transactions than I do, practical or relevant to you, but boy, if there's a way that you can find a way to do this, I would do it. Maybe, break it up and have your listing coordinator do some and you do some. I don't know how to do it, but I always knew that if I could pick up the phone and talk to my clients once a week, my life would be better. If anybody remembers Getting Things Done or the Franklin Planner, that whole concept of doing something that's important so that you never have things that are urgent is the concept that we're looking at here. And so I call them and I tell them right in the beginning, I said, okay, I'm going to call you Monday afternoon. And I'll call you every Monday afternoon, even if there isn't anything important, because I just want you to know what's going on. And so I have right here my little checklist. When I check it off on my dashboard, I get a place to insert my property notes, right? So I call up the seller and I say, just wanted this is your Monday afternoon check-in. This week we're doing X. You've got an appointment on Y. Is there anything on your side that I need to know about, right? And they say, well, the mover's coming this day and we're going to be fluent, blah, 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 whatever or they have questions. It really doesn't matter what it is. I type it into the property notes, so it's right there on the radar, so all of my staff can see what the client said to me on that weekly phone call. And when I make this phone call, I'm making deposits in a trust bank, man. I'm calling them and I'm constantly telling them, A, what we're doing, which, by the way, you might think I wouldn't need to do because, I'm sending those weekly emails, right? But you know what? Emails are no substitute for a live phone call. No substitute. They're a great supporter, but it's not a substitute. So I make that phone call. I check in with them. I didn't have anything of real import to say, seems like to me, but I got to tell you, once I started making these phone calls, the amount of anger, negative emotion, general freak out that I would experience from my clients when things inevitably go sideways, right? It's inevitable. We're dealing with a bunch of organic human beings. Shit's not going to get done. Shit's not going to get done on time. And you call your client, you're like, I'm so sorry, but we're not going to close on time is going to be a week later. A client who's been insecure and fearful that you may or may not have everything covered, when you tell them that escrow is going to be delayed by a week, their automatic response is, what the F did you do to make this happen? How come you didn't prevent this? When I'm putting coins in the trust bank every freaking week and telling them what I'm doing or not doing, whatever, when I call them to say escrow is going to be delayed by a week, they go, oh, okay. Well, what are the chances that it might go 2 weeks instead of 1? And it's a conversation about problem solving. It's a conversation about perspective. It is not a conversation that is accusatory or angry. And that is amazing. When you can do that, when you have that kind of a life, your phone doesn't ring at midnight, your clients aren't mad at you, and you have the bandwidth to actually pay attention to your kids when you're at home. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that what we're doing? Okay, so just wanted to really cover that concept. And this pops up every week on my dashboard. I'm the listing agent, so that's important for me. Okay, so that's listing marketing. Okay, and that's where it kind of starts. So let's get into what happens when we go into escrow, where I'm in escrow state. I don't know what y'all call it when you have attorneys. When you go into contract, I don't know what your nomenclature is, but when we sign a contract and we go through the due diligence process that the buyer needs to go through in order to complete and close and for title to record and for us to get paid. Okay, I call all of that the escrow process. Insert your word of choice. Okay. So again, we have lots of groups. Now it's a little bit important, a little bit different when it's an escrow. There are more groups. So for example, for me, appraisal activities around managing the appraiser and the appraisal are all under the group appraisal because, you know, don't hate me, but it's not that uncommon for me to negotiate deals where I force the buyer to remove the appraisal contingency before we ever enter contract. You know, yeah, I know you're going to hate on me and you're going to say, what, you can't do that? That's terrible. It's, you know, such a threat to the buyer. Just accept that that's common in my area and let's move past it, okay? So when there is no appraisal contingency, I don't want to see activities around the appraisal in my workflow, okay? Because we don't need to call the appraisal and find out if it's been ordered, lender to see if it's been ordered. And we don't need to call the lender to find out if the appraisal actually came in on time, right? Or on value. I don't want to see any of that. Other things, other groups here are when we have a backup offer, multiple offers are still common out here, and so I'm going to accept one in first position, then I'm going to accept a second one in second position, and that second position is in a precarious place, right? They don't know if they have anything. They're in that very uncomfortable limbo place. Well, if I can communicate with that backup agent and I can tell them what's going on in kind of a blow-by-blow basis, then the likelihood of that agent encouraging their buyers to stick around for as long as possible on my deal means that their chances of being there when the first buyer falls is a lot higher. But who has the bandwidth to remember to call the backup agent when, you know, the deposit is received or when the inspection contingency has been removed or not removed? Who remembers to do that? I don't, but Realvolve will, right? So we've got that coded in there. So that's what these groups are all about. So let's kind of dive in. Again, weekly phone call, critical for the peace of mind and the security and the lack of chaos and the lack of drama that I typically experience in my business. I really encourage you to try to figure out how to put that into your business. Adding deadline dates, these are all pretty obvious. Adding parties to the transaction. These are all things that my admin staff does to make sure we've got stuff. Processing the backup addendum. You'd be surprised how often we didn't do that because we just forgot. So we put it right in there. Opening email to the buyer's agent. So I'm going to cover this for a quick second because this is something that is such an intimidation move. And yeah, if anybody is on this call that might be doing business with me, am I doing this to intimidate you? Hell yeah. Do I apologize for it? Hell no. You know, those agents who are really, really professional wind up being impressed, not intimidated. So what does that look like? The opening letter to the, where the heck is it? What number was that one? SE009. Okay. So remember, see, I typed in SE so that I could see all of the letters that are attached to seller escrow. Okay, it says listing escrow because I've retitled things. But so here's the opening letter to the buyer's agent. And what's important about this is that we're sending a letter to the buyer's agent right when we open escrow. And the point is to communicate some facts so that we're all on the same page. But it's also to communicate, we have our shit together, we're really, really good at what we do, we expect you to have your shit together, and by the way, we're probably going to remind you about the shit that needs to get done. And that's what the point of this letter is, and it's a really, really great way of communicating and setting the tone for the transaction. This is not going to be a willy-nilly transaction. This is going to be tight, it's going to be awesome, it's going to be detailed, and we're going to cross the finish line with a minimum amount of fuss, right? So we use the power of merge fields in these letters, and by the way, one of these letters goes to every stakeholder in the transaction. It goes to the seller, it goes to the buyer's agent, it goes to the mortgage broker, it goes to the escrow officer. Anybody who needs to know who's on the team, who's doing what's going to get a copy of this letter with slightly different introductory. So we're telling the buyer's agent, all the access inspections, access is going to be the transaction coordinator. Don't call the listing agent. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. She's on to the next listing. Dude, you're going to get what you need from this person, right? Transaction coordinator, here's her name, here's all her contact data, here's what her responsibilities are, client services, name, responsibilities, contact data, and so on and so forth. By the way, we are representing the seller in this one, and I have put in the lender, and I've also put in the escrow, well, the lender who I don't have control of, right? I got that from the pre-qualification letter that they sent in when they give me the thing. I just am confirming, is this the lender? Please let us know as soon as possible that it changes. It's not that, you know, those little rascal buyer agents, they give me a pre-qual letter from a lender I really like, and then they sync a loan application with Guido. You know, well, it's not a lot that I can really do about that, but doggone it, I'm gonna tell them, you need to tell me if you're going with Guido instead of, you know, Trustworthy Mortgage Broker USA. Deadlines and dates, we've got it in there, so we're looking forward. This is really great. We have a very similar one that goes out to the seller. By the way, I think we had a conversation not that long ago where I really hate it when Google Calendars do that. We had a conversation not that long ago about how our clients are resisting reading really long emails. And you know, one of the things that I'm doing with my workflows is I'm trying to give them information just when they need it, rather than overwhelm them with one long, crazy email, right? But the first one, there's no getting away from it. It's got a lot of data, and a lot of data needs to be there. So I tell them every Monday I'm going to be calling you so they know what to expect from that. And then I say, this is the longest message you will receive, so they don't go, oh my God, am I going to have to deal with this for the entire transaction? And then I tell them what to expect. So we give them all their team numbers. So this is just like the other letter you saw that went to the buyer's agent, but a little bit of a different introduction. And then every week, the seller client expectation letters that says, this is what's going to happen this week. Here's what we're doing. Here's what you're going to do, and this is what to expect this week. And I try to acknowledge where they are emotionally, and the response I get from these letters from my clients is, how did you know how I was feeling? It's like, yeah, I've been around the block a few times, you know, I'm a professional. This is what you get from professionals. Week 2, now there's a much shorter email. Can you see how much shorter that is? It's very succinct, and it says, here's week 2 of your transaction. Again, acknowledging their emotional state. By now, you've probably told your friends about your new escrow. Has anyone thoughtfully shared their horror stories with you yet? If your clients haven't told you what their friends and family have just so thoughtfully shared with them, they're just withholding information. Trust me, Aunt Mildred has just told them they're a dumbass for paying that much money for the house. I guarantee it. So let's just go ahead and get in front of their emotions. Let's acknowledge what's going on with them and tell them it's okay. You did the research. We are taking care of you. And then again, what's happening this week, what we're doing, what you're going to do, and where this week is in perspective of the entire transaction. It's a busy week, right? Week 3 is more of the same. This is the week of knowing. Here's what happens this week, what we do, what you do. Now, this is what happens in California. Specifically, this is what happens in the greater Los Angeles area. Your mileage may vary. You've got to go through these letters, and you have to adjust them for what you know is going to happen in your area. And if you don't know because you're a newer agent, get together with your office manager, get together with your broker, get together with your mentor. I hope to God you have one, a real one, not one that's just paid, you know, a portion of your 3 transactions and you see once a month. A real mentor, right? Get together with somebody who is knowledgeable and say, look, how do I manage my clients' expectations? Here's an example of this gal in Greater Los Angeles. How can I do the same to reflect what happens in my area so that my clients aren't freaking out? Okay, so that's client expectations. A lot going on here. Let's see, what are the things? I kind of wanted to show you some if-then type stuff that we've got. So let's see. Update status of the backup. Let's see, that's not it. Check out certain appraisal date set. No. I should have written it down here. Okay, update backup offer on the loan. Here's an example of if-then activity. So what does that mean? It means that if one thing happens, we do A. If something else happens, we do B. Okay, so this is updating the backup agent on the loan. Now remember, I'm trying to keep the backup offer agent informed on what's going on, so they'll be there when I need them to be there if the first offer falls. And so we've got a loan contingency. We know when the loan contingency is going to happen, right? When is this going to happen? This is going to happen 0 days after the contingency date, right? Okay, so here's a checklist item. Is the loan contingency removed? Okay, so if this is checked off, then we get to send the contingency removed letter. What is that one? Backup loan contingency removed. This is a letter that I wrote actually kind of after I finished this series, so I forgot to Um, I forgot to put a code on it. I'm so assuming. Is it in there? Oh, I used my abbreviation for contingency, CTGY. Okay, backup inspection contingency removed. Okay, so this is the letter that gets to be sent out. I wanted to keep you updated on the status of our transaction. Here's the transaction address. Our contingency is due on this date. The buyer has removed their contingency. Please feel free to call us with questions. Actually, this is supposed to read loan contingency. Um, Backup loan contingency not removed. So in any case, the idea is that if the contingency has been removed, we send a letter that says contingency has been removed. The next thing that's going to happen is this. We'll keep you informed, and it's going to happen on this date. We'll keep you informed. But if they don't check this off, okay, so remember, this is if they checked it off. Loan contingency removed. We're going to send loan contingency removed message. However, if we don't check it off, then we have this action for an incomplete checklist. We didn't check off this particular item, so now we get the option to send the contingency not removed letter, and it reads more or less, hey, backup agent, the buyer was supposed to remove their loan contingency, they didn't. We're going to give them 3 days, and then we'll get back in touch with you. So, or call us if you have any questions. So this is really important. It's if there's a loan contingency removed, we get to send one letter. If it's not removed, we get to send another letter. Both letters are pre-written and templatized so that it's a real quick and easy thing for people to do. And there's quite a bit of things that are like that. Is the appraisal okay? I think that's another if that. No, that one isn't it. But that's a text message. So this is a text that goes to the loan officer, and it's just like, hey, is the appraisal on such and such a property? Is it okay? And we can send it out there. This is just you gotta manage these loan officers. They're not necessarily going to know what's going on or how to do it. Okay, let's see what else is on here. File and signature audit. This is, everybody has this. There's a whole bunch of documents that need to happen in order for our file to be closed and for our agents to be able to get paid a commission. So this is my checklist, and my TC goes through this and goes, okay, have this, got to have that. Let's go ahead and look for this, that, and the other thing. And then at some point, I can't remember where it is, she can send the missing documents list, and so that is a letter, and it says manually with preview. Actually, I forgot to send. I need to write the letter. Okay, I'll update that. But it's basically a letter that goes out and it says, hey, the following documents are missing, and it will automatically fill in whatever has not been checked off on this list. Right? Hopefully it's only a few things. We're missing the following documents. We're missing the seller's response, and we're missing the avid from the selling agent, let's say, and that's going to go out to the other agent. Please get this to us as soon as possible, right? So missing documents list, and then we can choose to send that every several days or however we want to do it. So that's another important thing. Where is the doggone? Oh, here it is down here. Okay, so that's another great feature that we have here in the Realvolve list that we didn't have before. Let's see, what else is out here? Chimney inspections. Oh, so there's a bunch of things that we don't want to have on our Google Calendar, and I don't want to see the reminder for inspections one day before home inspection on my Google Calendar. Actually, I don't want to see it on any calendar, because you know what? That's just going to gum up my doggone calendar. But some stuff I need to have calendared. So for example, the home inspection was something, it's an appointment. I want it on the calendar so everybody knows when this is happening. They can visually see who needs to be where and for what. And so this activity is going to sync with the Google Calendar. As you can see, most of the things on my checklist, on my workflow, do not sync with a calendar, and that's because we just want to have the right information in the right place, so that things are understandable. Okay, so that's primarily, and I think that's everything I wanted to show you on the listing escrow. So
Hey,
the last one I wanted to,
Kendyl,
yes, yeah,
before you go further, we've
yes.
got a few questions here, and I think that it would help clear it up. You may be covering it later, and if you are, then you can do it then. They want to see, like, for the groups, how. One of the questions is, well, do you just click the X to to stop the group. What they're missing is how do you start this workflow on an individual transaction and what does it look like? Because if you delete it here, it's going to delete it from everywhere and you don't want to do that. What you want to
That's
do,
correct.
remove the X whenever you start this. You might show them, now that you've gone through this, you might want to show them how you actually start this workflow on a transaction and how that transpires with the groups.
10-4. So let's take my friend Courtney, and I am going to start a workflow on her, and I'm going to start listing. Let's go.
You need to go to the listing side, don't you?
Oh, I can't do that. I have to do it on a transaction, don't I?
The property.
Yeah, on a property. So let's go with, actually, let's go with this one here. So here's a transaction at 123 Main Street, and I'm going to start a listing escrow. And so that tells me, and it says, are you sure you want it on 1234 Main Street? And I'm like, oh yeah, totally. So go ahead and do that. It's starting. Okay, so here we go with the groups. It says, what activities do you want for the listing escrow group? So this allows you to really control, to a fine degree, what you want on your activity list for this particular escrow. And remember, the workflow is a template for everything. Now you've got 1234 Main Street, really, really specific, and you know what 1234 Main Street needs, right? So in this particular case, it's an all-cash offer. Okay, so it's an all-cash offer with no appraisal contingency. There's obviously no loan process, right? Because it's an all-cash offer. And let's see, there's no referral from a non-agent, but it's referred by one of you guys. So we should have agent. There should be referral. So it is a referral. So I'm going to keep that in there. The property has been staged, so I want to make sure that I remember to destage the property. It's not a townhouse, so I'm going to get rid of that. And we don't have a backup offer. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of those. And so we can see we have general contingencies. Obviously, you want your general checklist. We have to remember about the staging. There's a referral involved, and they are going to have inspections. Okay, so what you can see is I unchecked the backup offer, right? Backup offer accepted, backup offer process. So backup offer process has now been unchecked. I'm not going to have those activities in my workflow. And so that is another just really cool feature that most don't have. Then here's another thing that's important. All of my workflows are written with roles in place, right? That's because I want this to be endlessly flexible as people in my business ebb and flow, come and go. So the listing coordinator is not me, it's actually we'll just say it's Alicia, and the listing agent is me, so we're going to keep that. Listing assistant, these are all my VAs. You guys know some of these people. Marketing assistant is going to be Daniel as well. Some of these things, I split them into different roles, anticipating that I would have this many people in my organization. But I don't have, a listing assistant and a marketing assistant. They're the same person, so I just put the same person into the roles, right? So that's how that goes. And now and then dates, right? So we can fine tune the dates as when we launch it. So the ratification date, if you don't know, is the day that you have agreeing signatures on the very last page of the document, which might be a counteroffer, it might be an addendum, whatever the last thing that needs to get done for everybody to be complete agreement on every single part of the contract. That's your ratification date, okay? So that's why it's not contract date, because the contract date might be signed on September 1st, and you don't ratify the damn thing until September 15th because there were all kinds of, counteroffers and addendums and, silliness or what have you. Start date is usually the same as your ratification date, but maybe, you ratify it on September 8th, but for whatever reasons, nobody wants to open escrow until September 16th. You can do that. If you happen to know when you launch this workflow, when your home inspection date is going to be, you should know what your closing date is, when your financing can, you can put all of this stuff in here, and it will fill into your your transaction record, right? And then you can even adjust the dates on particular individual activities. Because I've got so many activities in any given workflow here, this is kind of onerous, and you're probably not going to want to do that, but you could if you wanted to. Um, and let's see. Oh, and then parties, right? So who's the buyer agent going to be? Because this is for the listing escrow. We need to put that in, sir. So we're going to put in who is the buyer's agent, who's the home inspector, and so on and so forth, right? So we go for that. Same thing could be with a weekly phone call. Who's that going to be with? And we can put that in there. Deadline dates, the whole thing. So you can do a lot of granular control right when you're setting up the workflow. So now it's creating the activities, and we're off to the races. Mark, are there any other questions that I should answer before I proceed?
You actually covered both of them. Actually, the only other one is about merge fields in the checklist. They didn't understand merge fields in checklists. And I can
Oh
go
yeah,
there later if you want.
yeah, that's a pretty big one. Let's see. Let's go into buyer escrow, and let me see if I can make this a little bit more clear, because this was a superpower I did not understand until fairly recently. So the fact that you're not sure about it, don't worry, you're in the majority here. So here's a good place to look at that. So here's, oh man, okay, let me just put it in here. So here's the weekly call that I want my buyer's agent to make to the client. And I want them to call, and I want them to make sure that they put the notes in when they make that phone call. So that's how you put a merge field in there, right? Just like you do in the template letter. Let me do it again. You do your double bracket, and you get this drop-down list of all the things that are available that you could put in there. Okay, and I want to put in the notes. So it says, okay, this merge field is available, transaction notes. So I'm going to put that there. Okay, and then hit enter. And now this is part of the checklist, right? So I'm going to update that. And now I'm going to go back, and I am going to apply this to buyer escrow. So that's got to be, hello, come on. So that's got to be, yeah, so I can do that here to 1234 Main Street. Now I'm going to start the buyer workflow. I'm going to do this real quick so that you can just see this one thing. Actually, can we see this here? Follow up, send, because there might be the weekly phone call here that I can show you. Activities. Yeah. Weekly phone call, weekly phone call. Where are you? Yeah, deadlines date. Here, weekly phone call. Okay, so this would show up either on your activity list, and when it's due, it's actually going to show up on your dashboard where you should be living. So when you check it off, as I do right here,
You don't have it in there.
I don't have it in there. Okay, all right. Let's go back to what I was going to do then. Um, ba, 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 ba. Transactions. Um, 1234 Main Street. Let's go apply the buyer escrow that I did just a second ago. Start a workflow. Buyer escrow. Let's hit it. Okay, let's hit it. Let's just go ahead and hit it. And let's hit it. All right, so we're going to get those activities loaded up here. Okay, now I get weekly phone call. That was to the listing agent. That's listing escrow. All right, so let's go down here to the buyer escrow. Here we are. Deadline dates, plotted easements. Here we go, weekly call. So I'm going to check that off. And here's where we have it. It just pops right up. And so we're making our weekly phone call to the buyer and say home inspection scheduled. wants contractor to be there too. Okay. All right, so now we hit save and close. It's been checked off actually. All right, save and close. And here's what happens on your radar. We now have a note, home inspection scheduled, wants contractor to be there. And it's been dated and it's there. So you could do the same thing by making the phone call, going to the record 123 Main Street, being here, calling them up on the phone, then adding a new note right here, right? You could do that. But it's so much more efficient to just be on your dashboard, okay, be on your dashboard and be, come on, okay, widgets load. Okay, fine. So be on your dashboard and going through all of your things and just making phone call after phone call. So it happens on Monday afternoon. I've got, 20 phone calls to make, and I just hit these things. I go bam, 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 bam. I click on this one. I call the person. I make the notes all from my dashboard. I don't have to click through a bunch of things to make those phone calls happen. And it's just a really efficient way to get through a whole bunch of things. The other way of doing it is to click your activity board, filter it by stuff that just you are doing, right? And then go through this one and go bam, 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 make all those phone calls, get it done, get your notes inserted. You have an airtight comm log in case you're concerned about liability risk management. When you demonstrate to a lawyer that you have this call log that you're constantly updating, man, their ability to prove that you didn't do something, because of omission, it's like, well, yeah, it's not on there because it never happened, and as you can see, I document all my phone calls, right? It's just a really, really strong thing. Okay, any other questions?
That's pretty much it. Just making sure that they understand that the merge fields, you can put as many merge fields on those checklists as needed, not just the one note field. It really helps whenever you're dealing with assistants that need to make sure values of fields like dates and people are assigned to the database. If you put them in the checklist like that, you can assign them right in the checklist. So they don't have to go searching for them in the database itself. It shows it in the checklist, and if it doesn't show there, you can fill it in, and it'll backfill it into the main database for you. So.
Yeah, I actually just figured that one out. You're going to laugh at me. I just figured that one out. I was reviewing the paperless agent workflows, and they utilize that feature way better than I have, so I might make some updates to mine. But what he's really talking about is, just say that you've got to remove a particular, I don't know, when would you use that? I think Gary uses it more in terms of data entry. He'll say,
yeah, just making sure the fields are filled in for
right,
your contingency dates or other dates that are important that you want to make sure are filled in properly whenever you're first starting the thing, because you might leave them blank whenever you first start the workflow. They may be left blank. But at some point down that road, you should know what those dates are, and you can put those date verifications in there in the checklist so that whenever it pops up, you see a date in there. If you don't see a date in there, it's not been filled in the main database. So go ahead and fill it in the checklist, and it'll fill it into the main database for you.
Just a quick second. Michelle Pacia had asked if I purchase the DIGGS suite, can I edit DIGGS off of the template names? Totally. Once you download these workflows into your system, they are now your workflows. You can change them any old way you want to, and you should. And they are now yours. Edit the letters, edit the titles, edit all the templates, edit anything anything you want to. Your style, your business, your signature, your personality. Okay?
One recommendation that I do give a lot of people is, instead of just editing the one that's there, make a copy of it and rename it to something different. That way the original is still there in case you take something out and you want to see what it was originally.
Great point. That's a really good idea, Mark. You're kind of smart. Did you know that?
Well,
Yeah.
I've run into
Yeah.
questions like that.
Okay, buyer's escrow is actually a lot of the same of the listing escrow. Here's what the critical difference is with the buyer's escrow. With the buyer escrow, I don't control, at least in California. There's all this stuff I don't control. I don't control who the lender is. I don't control, you know, I don't control who in our area. I don't get to control who the escrow officer is. And those are two humongous stakeholders in a transaction. I don't know what their process is. I don't know how professional they are. I don't know whether or not they have the wherewithal to do their base job, let alone the things that my escrow officer takes care of for me. I selected her because she's the best in the business. All escrow officers pale in comparison to her. And so we used to call this workflow the not Christian workflow is actually what we called it. So there's lots and lots of things that you may want to make sure you're managing in a buyer escrow that you don't have to worry about on the listing side. That's why there's two different workflows, right? So like, for example, ordering the plotted easements with the title report, that's a big thing out here. You know, a lot of our properties were built in the 20s and 30s, and all kinds of crazy pants things happened with easements back before there was a lot of documentation, before anybody really cared. And so the story behind this one that I kind of want to get across to you is that the order plotted easements activity got added to a workflow because I got bit in the ass on a transaction, and that ass biting would not have happened if we had ordered our plotted easements. The reason we didn't order the plotted easements is because it wasn't our escrow company, and we had no idea that this company doesn't do that on a regular basis. And so yeah, totally my fault. I made assumptions I shouldn't have made. And so then we went into the workflow template, we added the order plotted easements, and now we're never going to get bit in the ass by that again. So here's the lesson that I want you to learn from that. At DIGGS, at the close of escrow, the staff and I sit down, and sometimes the agents and I, and we may just do this as a company because I have a small company, I can do this. We sit down after the close of escrow, and we do something I call the postmortem, and we go through and we ask ourselves, was there anything that went sideways that shouldn't have gone sideways? How can we keep it from going sideways in the next transaction? We ask ourselves, did we wow the client in any way? And sometimes we'll come up with something that we did that we forgot about, and we're like, well, you know, is that something we should do on every transaction? Okay, we're going to add it to the workflow. And you can wow a client in a bad way too, by the way. So do we wow the client in a bad way? All right, well, what can we do to, you know, stop that from happening again? And frankly, the weekly phone call came from a couple of postmortems where we're like, wow, you know, if we told them ahead of time, they wouldn't have gone, you know, bonkers, because it was really a minor thing to go bonkers on. We don't know why they went bonkers, and we realized, well, it's because we didn't tell them what was going to happen, right? We just took it for granted. Everybody knows. You know what? Your sellers don't know. Your buyers don't know. They've never bought and sold a house, or if they did, it was like, you know, in 1942. So keeping control of that stuff, doing that post-mortem is how you improve your workflows. Somebody asked me, do you modify your workflows? Yeah, I do. Used to be, I was modifying them every few hours. Now I probably modify them maybe once or twice a month as something comes up, but that's only because I've been working on them for 2 years. In the beginning, you're going to find lots of ways to improve the workflows to better reflect your process. These are living documents. It's not a set it and forget it, people, because your business is not set it and forget it. These are living documents that live and breathe with you. They grow with you. They change with you or with the client, depending on how you look at it. Okay, so that big lecture, sorry, not sorry, actually, you needed to hear that. So city inspection clearances, that's the sort of thing that only happens in a particular city, right? Opening letter to the buyer, same thing. We want to manage the buyer's expectations just like we manage the seller's expectations. We want to show them what was going on. Opening email to the lender, this is the sort of thing where it's like, we don't know this lender, we've never worked with them, so we're sending them a letter showing them that we are the undisputed professionals and we expect the same from them, right? Opening email to the buyer, same thing, and managing their expectations. Inputting deadlines, upload documents. I'm trying to find things that are really, really different. Receive the escrow. Let's see, review the reports and disclosures. This is kind of like the to-do that we did for the listing marketing, where we go over all the reports and disclosures. Well, now we're on the receiving end with the buyer, so 5 days, because that's what our contract says. The deadline is 5 days after ratification date. Seller has to provide all the reports and disclosures. So we go over that with our buyer, make sure that they're kosher and good with it. And it's a to-do because our preference is that is done live. If not face to face, then over the computer while we're sharing a screen and looking at the same data at the same time, right? Making sure that they're all in agreement and understanding about the reports and disclosures. Confirming the appraisal department appointment, because we are the lender representing the buyer, and so we have the lender, and so we need to confirm, did you actually make an appraisal appointment, right? Because how do we know if the lender sent the appraisal? So we had to call the listing agent and say, hey, was the appraisal appointment made? Because they probably don't have the listing escrow workflow that checks in to see if the appraisal was done, right? So this is our way of checking up on our own lender by calling the person that needs to be contacted, right? And we've had a situation once where we had the confirm appraisal appointment text. The listing agent texts us back and say, no, we don't have an appraisal appointment. We call the lender. The lender's like, oh, no, the appraiser made the appointment. We're like, with who? We found out the appraiser made the appointment with the wrong listing agency. So these types of things can really head off problems before they become a problem. Review the escrow instructions and disclosures meeting. That's a meeting. It needs to happen. That's why it's on the Google Calendar. Following up on the email. Referral notice, right? This is another thing. We're trying to create repeat and referral business, right? So if somebody referred us a client, let me see if I can show you the letter here. Let's see, referral notice, tell referral the contingency has been removed. That is BE1019. Okay, so, oops, what happened there? Let's go templates, BE. And let's just go and get all the BEs. 09. Oops. No, that's
019.
BBE.
019.
Yeah. This is, oh, wait, 019 for BE. Here we go. Buyer referral remove. So if somebody referred me a buyer and we got it in there, we want to tell them how their friend is proceeding through the escrow. My assumption is that it's their friend, it's somebody that they actually have contact with, maybe it's their neighbor, maybe it's a coworker. We want them to be able to say, hey, Joe, I want to congratulate you. Heard that your deal is solid now, isn't it great? How do you like working with DIGGS? That kind of stuff. I want them to feel like they can talk to their client because they get to feel like the win was theirs. They were responsible for their friend Joe successfully buying a house. Now, how's that going to make them feel about referring additional friends and family to DIGGS? Pretty damn good, right? As opposed to the way I used to do things, because I didn't have the bandwidth to do this. I would get a referral from my friend. And when escrow closed, I'd write them a thank you note and maybe send them a gift certificate to a restaurant. I'd say, hey, thank you so much for the transaction for Joe, your friend. Really appreciate it. Go out to dinner on me. Thanks, Kendyl. That's nice. And it's certainly better than nothing. And I'm embarrassed to tell you how often nothing happened with me because I didn't have the bandwidth. But doing this, communication along the way, wow, that is a wow moment. Will Joe ever refer somebody to anybody other than DIGGS at this point? Probably not. Are they going to feel like I owe them a finder's fee? Probably not. They're going to feel like if I feel so good and Joe is thanking me profusely, not Joe, the friend is thanking Joe profusely for having referred DIGGS because we're so great to work with. This is how you create repeat and referral business, and you never have to say, remember me when your friends and family are looking to buy or sell because I heart referrals. I just threw up in my mouth just a little bit. None of us want to say that. I mean, there isn't anybody on this phone call who wants it. Some of you are saying it because some guru somewhere, who by the way has never sold a house, told you to say that, or some conference guy sold you some stickers that says I heart referrals. Some of you are doing that because that's what you think you need to do. But isn't this better? Isn't the shock and awe showing people how amazing you are, isn't that a hell of a lot better than a sticker that says I heart referrals on the back of your business card, right? Okay, so that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to help you shock and awe everyone around you with your amazing professionalism and how awesome it is to do business with you, how much better, how much more secure, how much more trust they have because they know you've got their back. fact, that's what we say here at DIGGS. When you sign a listing contract, we actually send you a little welcome gift, and it says in there, we've got your back. And that, at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants from you. They want that more than a discounted commission. They want to know you have their back, and this is how we're proving it to them. This is how we're showing it. We are walking the walk. We're not yapping and flapping our lips. Anybody can do that. Anybody can do it. And by the way, most of the people in your marketplace, that is all they're doing. Slapping their lips. You're going to be the one guy, the one gal who is demonstrating with every single thing that you do that you are the shits. You're the bomb. You are the only choice in your market area because you're the only one who actually has it all together. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, now you know why I call myself the director of excitement. I get so fired up about the idea of people treating their clients the way they deserve to be treated that I just can't even stop talking. Okay, let's see, what else is in here? Oh God, this one, verifying termite and repair completion. This is another thing. Bites me in the ass before I had this on here. It's like I would just assume that the listing agent would have their act together about getting the termite completion done in time to get the CD out and close on time and move in on time and all this other stuff. I don't know why I thought the listing agent was good, because when I'm the listing agent, you know, that didn't always happen. So sending this text ahead of time, make sure the listing agent actually is going to get it done. That has also saved my keister and made things better for my buyers, because they didn't know that actually there was a chance they might not have been able to move on time because the listing agent didn't get their tent done on time, as an example. Okay, confirm transfer of keys, another ass biter. You know, we would sit there and we would just assume we're going to be able to get the keys, and so escrow would close, and we'd call the listing agent and say, okay, so how can I get the keys? And the listing would say, oh man, I'm out of town. I'm not going to be back until Monday. I'll get you the keys on Monday. Are you kidding me? Your buyer wanted to actually move in on Friday, and now they can't move in until Monday. Well, you know what? We better make that phone call ahead of time. Make sure that we know how we're getting the keys and how that's all going to get transferred. Make sure that happens on time so that our buyers get what they want, when they want it, how they want it. That's the point here. Okay, updating the buyer in the database. Oh my gosh, that's something that often didn't happen. It was one of those really important things, but it wasn't urgent, so it didn't get done, right? So we put it into the workflow. Update the buyer, put their new address in there, and you know, it used to be that you changed your email address because you changed internet providers. That's not the case anymore, but we used to make sure that we updated that kind of stuff. After close workflow, there's actually, if you buy the DIGGS suite, you can launch, and I think it actually is a launching. Let me take a look at it real quick. Yeah, so there is an after close workflow that is currently part of the DIGGS suite. I'm actually thinking about taking it out. So that's another reason why you want to buy the workflows now. Oh my God, it's 10:07. I better wrap this up. But you can apply the after close workflow, and this is something. It's not a message. It's not an email. It's actually launching a workflow that will go. So here we go. After close. DIGGS buyer after close, and now this one is actually going to launch when you do this activity. Okay, so let me wrap this up. Many of you are aware that the price of the DIGGS suite is going to go up on Monday. It is currently at the low introductory price. Never agreed with this price. I used to sell them at $1,100 for the whole suite when they were, it was just me before I joined the company. So the low introductory price is $3.99, which has always been kind of ridiculous, is going to go up to $5.99. I don't know how long I'm going to actually hold the price at $5.99. I'll probably increase them at some point as I improve things. But they'll be $5.99 on Monday. So from now until Monday, you can still buy these workflows at $3.99, which is an incredible value. There are 14 different workflows that are currently part of this suite. After close, buyer escrow, there are follow-up workflows, getting reviews. That's so important part of our job right now. There is the lead gen internet lead. It is not the one that I'm selling separate. This one is actually a pretty simple one that I wrote. It's just basically assign the call and make some follow-up phone calls. I've completely changed that one. That's available as a separate purchase, but there are some rudimentary things in here. Listing escrows included, the listing maintenance, listing marketing, processing offers. All of that stuff is available in the DIGGS suite. It will take you from contact through contract and beyond for $3.99. It is an amazing value. 14 workflows. Wasn't able to count how many templates. There's just too fracking many to count. There's a lot. And that's available for $3.99. I'm also rolling out a brand new workflow that's not on this one, that is the Intranet Lead Gen. There are 2 workflows in that one. The first one is what happens once you get the phone call. A survey says you got to make 6 phone calls in order to maximize your ability to actually talk to that person and see if they're a 7-day buyer. So there's 6 phone calls and 6 follow-up emails if you wind up leaving a message, which oftentimes you will. And if you make 6 phone calls and you're not the type of person who will call until they buy or die, because that's not me, then you can enact the second workflow in that suite, which is the non-responsive lead, which is one full year of weekly emails that get sent out on a set it and forget it kind of a basis, so that you stay relevant and valuable for them until that person is ready to actually buy. And we know the internet leads are if they don't buy right away, they're 180 to 360 days away from doing an action. I don't have the discipline to call every week for 360 days. So these emails are critical for being able to stay in touch without using a lot of your really, really valuable time and headspace. So that's going to be available for $199 after Monday, but for today, Saturday, and Sunday, there's available for $99. The way that you get them is you can either email me, or my preference is that you go to go.realvolve.com/VA for virtual assistants. That has all of my workflows and workflow packages, as well as my virtual assistant packages. Select the one that you want. Don't pay attention to the price that's on there, because I have my new pricing on that particular website. Just know that for today, tomorrow, and Sunday, they're at $3.99 for the DIGGS suite and $99 for the Internet Lead Gen. And there you go. So, any questions that I need to answer here? Can we change the name DIGGS to something else? You can change it to whatever floats your boat. Are the templates included? Yes, ma'am. There are, I don't know, dozens and dozens and dozens. Glossary of your codes. No, there's not a glossary of my codes. You don't need a glossary of my codes, for goodness sakes. They just group them together. Don't get hung up on it. I'm going to remove those stupid codes so people stop asking me. Do we get updates on workflows when Kendyl updates them? No, you do not, Doug. The minute that you download the DIGGS suite, they are now yours to modify as you please. I will be making updates and educating people as I learn lessons on the Realvolve community, and you can then add them to yours. Okay. How do you buy the DIGGS suite? Just told you. Go to go.realvolve.com/Realvolve. Can you give me some examples of follow-up and client nurturing workflows? You know what, the client follow-up ones, so I've done fancy ones. I have. I've done ones with all kinds of collateral attached, valuable things and such. I got to tell you, nothing works better than following up with a phone call. And just nothing. So there's a lot of gurus out there who will sell you workflows. Maybe one of these days I will create one for you. I'll drag one of my old ones out of the trash for you. I just think they do you more harm than good. They lull you into a sense of thinking that you can actually follow up with a cold lead, somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't like you, doesn't trust you, doesn't have a relationship with you, by sending them a bunch of pre-written emails. I don't think you can do that. And you might hit 1 or 2, but then doggone it, you can win the lottery too. So, let's do what works. And what works is if to follow up with somebody who's not in a relationship with you, call them. Just call them, dagnabbit. So for my workflows, follow-up workflows, it is follow-up phone call once a week, and it's once a week for, I think I have it set for 6 months, and then at the end of 6 months, 18 weeks, or I think that's 6 months. Well, whatever it is, maybe it's 4 months, and then decide what to do. And do you want to continue calling or not? And if you don't want to call, then you can enact the non-responsive lead workflow, which if you buy the internet lead response, you can use that one, which is set it and forget it, because you're not going to call them anymore. Okay. Let's see, what else have we got in here? Shows $5.99. Yes, Laura, shows $5.99. Don't worry about that. It is going to be $3.99. Um, what's in Kendall's welcome gift? Oh, okay. Um, I'm kind of proud of this one, but I don't think any of you are going to do it. So this the throwdown. I want you to I want you to tell me if you actually do it. It is a custom printed box that contains two logo mugs, two bags of Tazo Tranquility tea, two freshly baked muffins from a local bakery that everybody loves, and a note card that says, "Welcome to DIGGS. The journey ahead is a big one. We can't promise that everything is going to be easy, but we can promise it will be easier because we're by your side. We've got your back." And we deliver that once we have a signed listing contract or a signed buyer's broker. Will this be going on much longer? Ronald, you should know I can talk forever. Liz McDonald, I created a custom workflow as leasing agent, started the outline, an Excel sheet so I could see the master plan of each worker, something like that. Yeah, if I had all the time in the world, Liz, which I don't, I could create an Excel spreadsheet or I could create a flow. But unfortunately for all of you people, I am running a brokerage, and and we're going like gangbusters, so I don't have the time to do that. So sorry. Are the workflows preloaded in the new Realvolve account? No, you do need to buy them or download them from our workflow library, but many of them are public and they don't cost anything. So just look at our workflow library and you'll be able to pick and choose what you want. Is this your buyer or a buyer on your listing? Depends. If it's my buyer escrow, then it's my buyer, and if it's my listing escrow, it's the buyer of my listing. For a 3-agent program, are there 4 logins? I think that is yes. Never mind. Okay. Do you have a glossary of your codes? No. Will you see the email sent? Yeah. Okay. So will you see the email sent or received in your radar? You're going to see them. Let's see. Where's my 1234 Main Street? Is it still there? I don't think so. So in the radar of your transaction is going to be all the emails that are sent or received for the transaction. Now, if the client that it was sent to is in your Realvolve, so this is for the buyer escrow, right? So if you send an email on a transaction where you represent the buyer to the buyer, because you control the buyer, that's going to show up in that client's radar. Okay, that's kind of confusing, so set that aside for a second. But all of your emails are going to be on the radar of Main Street, and by the way, it's also going to show up on your dashboard. Wait for widgets to load. Okay, so it's also going to show up here on your dashboard. Let me just show all of the this is how you filter it, by the way. I just clicked email so I can see just the emails. And actually those emails were sent a while ago, but if I had an email sent on a particular transaction, it would show up on my dashboard as well. Okay, so you can go to the transaction, or you can go to your dashboard and you'll be able to see the emails that were sent. I always go to my dashboard. That's where I live. That's where everything is. No, the missing checklist items, I don't have time to do that right now because I'm really kind of going through that. Maybe you can send me a private message or an email and I'll try to show it to you at that point. What is your system when a deal falls apart? Yeah, I actually have. That's one that I have privately. It's not for sale right now. You're gonna laugh at me because it happens so rarely. I didn't actually do this until much later in my Realvolve career. But now I have a when your deal falls apart back on market workflow, and that happens when you cancel a buyer transaction workflow that asks you, do you want to restart it, right? Um, okay, so I think I'm caught up. So if there's more questions, I'll try to answer them in the Realvolve community. I don't want to go too much longer. Mark, was there anything important that I missed out on?
I had failed to put the DIGGS internet conversion menu choice on whenever you go to order. It's on there now. I did it while you were talking. So for those that wanted to order the internet conversion piece, they should be able to pick it from the list if they'll refresh their screen.
Right. Okay. So really want to thank everybody that has hung around. I went way over where I intended to go. Hopefully, it was still valuable time for all of you. Remember, if you want to purchase the DIGGS workflows, DIGGS suite workflows, go to go.realvolve.com/VA Victory Apple. That stands for Virtual Assistant, and you will be able to see the workflow packages available for sale. On that site, it says that the Dig Suite is for $5.99, but from now until Monday morning, I will only be charging you $3.99 for those workflows, and then the Internet Lead Conversion Workflow Suite that's listed as $199. From now until Monday morning, I will be only charging you $99 for those two workflows. So they're effectively on sale. So thank you so much. We will be sending out the recording of this webinar to everybody that participated and asked, and I really, really appreciate all your participation.
Awesome
See you
job,
guys.
Kendyl. You are amazing, amazing, amazing. So very good.
You're very, very welcome. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day.